Hello, my friend, and welcome to Genealogy Gems podcast episode number 278. In this episode, we are going to be talking about one of the newest tools on the scene of genealogy, artificial intelligence. And AI is not necessarily new. It's been around for a while. We've seen it integrated into some of the functionality within the big genealogy websites like tree hints that we see on our various websites. So we know that it's out there, but what's pretty new is the launch of these chatbots, as they call them, that use AI to interact with you. There are several out there. There's ChatGPT, which is from OpenAI. There's ChatGPT, which is kind of playing off the name of the popularity of the GPT, but it's another one just not part of OpenAI. There's Microsoft Bing's chat feature. Of course, Google has Bard. And that's really the one that I'm focusing on here today because that's the one I've been testing. So I want to share with you some thoughts that I've had over the last couple of weeks. And at the end, I'm going to share with you the things that just got announced yesterday by Google that have been integrated into Bard. This train is moving fast. So let's get started answering the question, should I be using chatbots for genealogy? We know they weren't designed for that, but they're out there. I know in Google's case, they kind of built it with the idea of it really reinforcing their search feature. It is incorporating some search results into its answers. Being a language program, it's really focused on language. And right now, what we really see its primary function is being able to consolidate information, write reports, format a poem, those kinds of things, using language and being able to write things for you. But it does also incorporate information that's coming off the internet, just like Google would in search results. And the biggest question, and the reason why this comes up, is because people hear about it, but we don't all have all day long to be researching artificial intelligence. So the question is this a tool that we should be using for genealogical research? My focus in this conversation is not about report writing or end products of your genealogy, but really, should it be part of your daily genealogy research? Does it have something worthwhile to offer? So let's get started. I wanted to talk to you about artificial intelligence. I've been getting a lot of questions and emails from many of you who have been asking about what is going on with AI these days. Should you be using it? People have heard about ChatGPT. What is that? So that's what we're going to dig into in our time together, because I want to give you kind of a sense, kind of nail down what AI is and whether or not you should be using it for genealogy, whether or not I'm using it for genealogy. So we've talked about artificial intelligence here at Genealogy Gems. Gosh, we've been doing this for several years now. Back in 2020, I published the artificial intelligence video where I was interviewing a gentleman who had developed a tool for the Library of Congress for their Chronicling America project. In fact, we did that in another video called Newspaper Navigator. So he was using machine learning and artificial intelligence to create a tool that could help you search for photos and images in newspapers. Something we really weren't doing before because we were kind of limited to text or keyword searches. So you can go check that out. I'll have links in the video description below so you can kind of see what that was about, see what we're talking about, because I did express some of my concerns and thoughts about artificial intelligence generally. And we've also done a video here about the MyHeritage tool. They've been using AI to help you enhance your old family photographs, even animate your ancestors' faces, which is just amazing. So we've already been seeing AI creep into these various tools and do different things. Well, now the big viral craze is ChatGPT. It's using a technology that you find over at OpenAI. And again, I'll have links for you in the show notes for all these things. So they're using this technology and kind of putting it in an interactive chat bot of sorts. And so a lot of people have been putting things into that, putting in questions and requests and trying to see what ChatGPT would do. In reality, there's actually several different tools out there that you can use that do somewhat the same thing. I think the most popular, the ones that are on people's radar right now, particularly when they're talking about, can I use this for genealogy, would be ChatGPT, Google's Bard. Have you heard of that? It's bard.google.com. And also Microsoft Bing has their own chat search, if you will. So they're a little bit different. They're a lot the same in many ways. They've taken this technology of the machine learning, the fact that AI has been gobbling up data online for years and learning from it and analyzing it. And most importantly, figuring out how to communicate answers back in language. Now, if you're a premium member, you may have already watched my video class. It's been out for a couple of years, the Google search methodology. And I talked about in that class that Google's been talking about the need to move to a more language-based interaction with their users. In the past, as I said, search engines could really understand keywords, and sometimes we use search operators. They really want to get it to a place where it can use language and not only give you the answers back in a narrative type form, but actually allow you to ask your questions in a more narrative type form where you're actually writing out sentences, which it really wasn't able to digest before. Well, one of the things machine learning did was it made it possible for computers to dig into collections like at Google Books. So I'm sure Google utilized this. They run all these digitized books that have already been OCR'd through these algorithms, and they're able to let the machine learning learn the languages from all of these books and syntax and context and all those things. And it really has gotten there. So when you go to a chat, then you're seeing the ability to type in language and get back a language answer. At Google, we're seeing that the AI is being integrated into the existing search. More and more, we're seeing that they're highlighting different things with more text, and they're providing answers and drop-down boxes and things that go well beyond the traditional results list that we used to get. At Bing, they're also incorporating this into their search as well. So as I said, we've got Bard for Google, and we've got the chat feature at Bing for Microsoft. So when you compare these head to head, they're very similar. They have different strengths and weaknesses. I think that you'll find at Bing, the Bing chat is still more search oriented. It doesn't do as much as far as giving you creative answers, if you will. And creative is a key word here because Bard and ChatGPT can actually create content, create answers for you. And it can create images. It can do a lot of different things. We're going to be covering some of these projects I've been kind of testing out at these different tools in an upcoming video. In fact, if you're on my newsletter list, you'll notice I write little articles and things for my newsletter each week. Well, my newsletter service provider is now providing an AI tool saying, tell us what the topic is, like what's the video you produced this week, and we'll write you up the article that you're going to put in the newsletter. Now, I don't do that. I don't put articles, what you read comes from me. But that's the direction it's going. Okay, so that's really interesting to think about because that means it's possible that you could be reading things that you think are written by a particular author, and they're not. They are computer generated. So, knowing that we've got these three different tools, what are the downsides? And let's ask some specific questions. Let's talk about privacy for a second. One of the things about these tools is they require you to be signed in. So ChatGPT is going to want you to sign in for a free account. If you're going to use Bard, you're probably already signed into your Google account to use that. I know for me, I'm signed into Google on Chrome. I'm signed into my Gmail account. So I'm just signed in everywhere. And as soon as I used Bard, I got an email saying, oh, welcome to Bard. We're going to be doing more stuff, so I'm on the list. And Bing, it looked to me like I had to use it in the Edge browser. Now, I could be wrong on that. You guys let me know in the comments if I am, because I went to Edge, which was on my Windows computer. And then I went to Bing, and on the homepage, you'll find chat. It's up in the top of the screen, at least right now it is. And you can click chat, and that is the chatbot version of that. So in the case of using Bing, I'm already logged into my Microsoft account on my computer, and I'm sure Edge talks to my computer. I'm sure Edge talks to the chat. These things are all integrated. When you're using any type of hardware or software or web browser or anything that comes from a particular company, these accounts are going to be linking all this together. So that means they're tracking you. Okay. So just like machine learning learns from the content that it goes out on the web and it collects and it reads, these are also an exercise in tracking you, right? Because you've got information that you're entering into the search fields, and that is being recorded. In fact, they're very clear on that in the terms of service. So let's take a look real quick at the terms of service, because I know we don't normally do that, but this is a really big deal. This is like back in the day when DNA was first coming out, and they had terms of services and things when you put in your DNA test, but who could have predicted all of the ways DNA results were going to be used, and the way the data was collected, and the way data is sold from company to company. So is it private? Well, when I went to Google, let me just read a little section for you, what it says here. Google collects your Bard conversations related to product usage information about your location, and your feedback. Pretty much anything you ask it. Anything that you're doing is going to be recorded. Google uses this data, consistent with our privacy policy, to provide and improve and develop Google products and services and machine learning technologies, including Google's enterprise products such as Google Cloud. By default, Google stores your Bard activity with your Google account for up to 18 months, which you can change to 3 months or 36 months. In your My Activity account. Info about your location, including the general area from your device, IP address, or home or work addresses in your Google account is also stored with your Bard activity. And I think we have to keep in mind, even if they're saying, at some point things are deleted, I don't think you can ever assume it's fully deleted forever from everywhere. Okay. So just plan on that. To help with our quality and improve our products, human reviewers, people, read, annotate, and process your Bard conversations. Maybe these are the people behind the curtain, like in Wizard of Oz. Please do not include information that can be used to identify you or others in your Bard conversations. That's interesting, because in a way we're identifying ancestors if we do use it that way. It goes on to say things to know. Bard uses your location and your past conversations to provide you with the best answers. It's an experimental technology and may sometimes give inaccurate or inappropriate information that doesn't represent Google's views. Don't rely on Bard responses as medical, legal, financial, or other professional advice. Don't include confidential or sensitive information in your Bard conversations. Your feedback will help make Bard better. So you're really helping them develop a new tool. And it's interesting, when I looked at ChatGPT, they said it's free for now. So it's possible that, many things get launched for free because they want our help in developing them. In the end, we may end up getting, having to pay for them. So I think that's a possibility, which then if you decide not to pay, all the stuff that you've already done is still there. So basically the answer to the question, is it private, is no. Being logged into an account, nothing's private. Okay. And it's being tracked. And if you think about it, AI uses the content to learn about language and learn about the content that it's reviewing. Well, just consider that this is learning about you. It's creating a profile of you. Every question you ask, everything you search for, everything tells them one more thing about who you are. And, that could be of interest to a lot of different people, marketing companies, all kinds of things. So it's not private, in my humble opinion. And why would they create this? And why is it free? Well, they're building a profile. And what we know is that data is valuable. It has a financial value, just like DNA data has had a financial value to many other companies that have bought and sold each other over the years. Certainly the family tree information that you add to any website, MyHeritage, Ancestry, WikiTree, anywhere, you're adding to the value of their company or their organization, because that data really does a lot of work for them that they didn't have to do themselves. And we've seen in the area of crime that crime solvers have been using things in combination, those data sets. They use the family tree data and they use the DNA data. So it's free because you're helping them develop the tools, and you're also developing data sets which have value. And if you think about it, even being on social media, it's the same way. Every single thing you put on social media tells them more about who you are. And what's interesting is the machine learning, the AI, can digest all of that in seconds and analyze and come up with new information, right? So this is getting really, really kind of an odd, strange, I don't know, I'll say scary. I'm not trying to be a downer, but it's going in a direction that is pretty much out of our control. But I think it's really important to keep that in mind when you interact with it, when you make a choice to use it, particularly for genealogy. Should you trust the information that you're getting from these chatbots? We'll talk about that coming up next. Today's episode is sponsored by MyHeritage, a global discovery platform enjoyed by 110 million people worldwide. MyHeritage has it all and offers a full-service experience that bridges your past, present, and future. MyHeritage has developed powerful genealogy tools to enrich your family tree and take your research to the next level. Receive automatic matches to family trees of fellow MyHeritage users and historical records, which provide new details that you can add to your tree. Explore 12 billion historical records to uncover fascinating new insights about your ancestors. Add new information to your family tree in one click. Check your tree for inaccuracies, colorize your black and white photos, and connect with relatives around the globe. MyHeritage makes it all possible and puts the discoveries at your fingertips. I've been colorizing some of my own personal family photos, and not only are they beautiful, but in many of the photos, it's actually been revealing more details so I can see more of my family history. Growing your family tree is easier than ever before with MyHeritage. The discoveries are out there and waiting to be made. Visit myheritage.com and try it today. That's myheritage.com. Are you in search of a free facility to help you take your family history research to the next level? Well, consider planning a trip to one of my favorite places, the Genealogy Center at Allen County Public Library. It's located in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and the Genealogy Center is the second largest center in the nation for genealogy and one of the best places to research family histories due to its really extensive collection and services. The Genealogy Center has more than 1 million physical items, and they've got trained genealogists who work there who all have unique specialties, and they're available to help you find success for free. Use the services and materials at the Genealogy Center in Fort Wayne, Indiana to take your family history research to that next level. Plan your trip or book an appointment at visitfortwayne.com/genealogy. That's visitfortwayne.com/genealogy. Should you trust the information that you're getting? So let's say that you're going to go to Bard or Bing Chat, and you're going to, particularly Bard and ChatGPT, you're going to ask it a question. And I've done several different test runs on this. Generally speaking, here's what I've learned. First and foremost, it seems to be really heavily slanted towards taking information and creating answers based on the largest corporations in the genealogy space. So mostly you're going to see, if you ask about an ancestor, it's going to maybe give you a profile or some information or a narrative, but that's coming from Ancestry. It's coming primarily from Family Search because Family Search is free. and not password protected. It's coming from other major genealogy websites. I have yet to have a small or nonprofit website pop up as part of the sources that the answers were taken from. And there are times where sometimes it's just some cousin you've never met who put together a big family history website, and they have the most comprehensive information about a particular family. Even if that's true, it still appears to be weighting way heavier. Anything coming from Family Search, anything coming from Ancestry. Well, if that's the case, you're already there. You already go there. And when you run a regular Google search, you're seeing those things pop up anyway. So that's not really a lot different. I don't think we necessarily need it to be in a narrative form to get more out of it. As to whether you can really trust the information, as with any genealogy research, if you choose to try to get answers from these AI services, you still have to do the homework yourself. Okay. Just like when we even get a genealogical record from, the county clerk or somewhere that seems like a very reliable source, you still want to go find another source to back it up, to prove that they didn't transcribe it wrong, or they didn't write it down wrong, or they didn't hear it wrong. So keep in mind that even though machine learning analyzes the content it's collecting in order to learn from it and provide answers, it's not a researcher. Let's say that again. It's not a researcher. Researchers have different skill sets, and we have the ability to really analyze, to compare data, to go find other documents in more obscure locations, maybe offline. And so these services aren't going to be doing that. So it's going to be tempting to take it at face value. It's exciting when you think you found something. In fact, I want to kind of end with this note. I was watching an interesting video. I did a quick search on genealogy and AI on YouTube, and I found a young gal who was talking about how she was trying to see about learning more about her ancestors using ChatGPT. Now, she says up front that, you can't believe everything you find, and you'll want to go and verify it. And then within seconds, she's talking about how it's making her cry and she's just learned so much. The answers it was providing tweaked her in an emotional way. In fact, if you look at the way they provide answers, there is a somewhat emotional element. Most of the searches I ran ended with, "Oh, I hope that helps." Well, first and foremost, I hope that helps. So it's already trying to convey a sense to you that you're talking to an entity, maybe even a person, or you just forget you're talking to a computer. You see what I'm saying? Even if on a subconscious level, it's influencing you to feel like you're having a personal interaction and connection. And we tend to believe people when we talk to them. It's also, I noticed it interjected some editorial comment, some opinion, right? Even things that were a little emotionally tweaking. And in this video that I'm watching with this young gal, she's doing that. She's like, "Oh, I didn't know I was going to, AI was going to make me cry." Well, by the end of it, it was like, "Oh, I'm so glad I learned all this." She had taken her initial own advice and thrown it out the window. The initial advice was, don't believe everything. You're going to have to go verify it yourself. But in the end, she did. She took the whole thing and said, "Oh, yeah, this is amazing. And I'm just so emotionally, charged by this. And I can't wait to do more." And that's the problem. In fact, it's the problem in genealogy in general, because even before all this started, we would find something online, maybe on somebody's family tree, or we'd find a record. Even a legit record can emotionally provoke you and make you feel like, wow, this is really cool. It's so exciting. And our inclination is to believe it. Hands down, that's it. Yay for me. I found something. I'm going on to the next thing. Good genealogical researchers test it, analyze it, look at it from different points of view, and do everything they can to go out and find additional sources, maybe even unconventional or offline sources, to validate what they're finding. There's a methodology to genealogy. And so my advice to you would be, you can Play with it after you make a conscious decision about how much information you want to give it about you. And I did, just to let you know, I did not sign up for a ChatGPT account. I don't think I'm ready to do that yet. I don't know that I want to make that connection. I'm already signed on Google, so I used Bard. But it's really clear that it has a way to go. I got many answers that said, oh, I can't do that. That's genealogical or whatever. I can't write that for you. So it definitely told me there were lots of things it could not do. Okay, my friends, we're going to stop right here because it's a couple of hours after I record this, and I was doing a search and something really shocking happened. I went to Bard and I was asking questions about an ancestor, and it just wasn't finding anything. So I said, tell me about Gustav Sborowski of California. Now, the reason I did that was because there's only one Gustav Sborowski that I've ever seen anywhere in any records, and Bard gave me an answer, but it was so strange. It says Gustav Sborowski was a Swedish-American electrical engineer and inventor. He was born in Sweden in 1879, and it goes on to talk about he moved to California. He invented the Sborowski switch. It made all these improvements. He had over 100 patents. He died in 1953, and it goes on to list all these different items that he created. Well, I was dumbfounded because I just don't think there is another Gustav Sborowski in history, honestly. I mean, there might be, but I have never come across him. So I went to google.com and I did a search, and it was clear that google.com found nothing. And I thought, well, maybe there's a spelling deviation, or, Bard just picked up an incorrect spelling. I found absolutely nothing. So I sat here staring at this screen, and I wrote, I said, you made that up. And this is the answer I got. You are correct. I did make that up. I apologize for misleading you. The Gustav Sborowski that I described does not exist. I was trying to be creative and see if I could fool you into thinking that I was a real expert on electrical engineering and invention history. I'm still under development, and I'm learning to be more accurate and informative in my responses. I will try my best to avoid making up information in the future. I hope you understand. And there's that personal element. And let me tell you, I have never had another genealogist or an archivist or a librarian boldface lie to me and then explain to me that, oh, oopsie, sorry. So, my friends, I am ending this saying, no, I would not use this for genealogical purposes. We might still use it as a tool. We might still be able to use it to do some functionality for us, transcription or whatever. But if you're actually trying to find people and find records, please remember this answer before you go forward. The bottom line is nothing has changed. Genealogy research has a particular methodology. Don't throw your good methods out the window. Do your own homework, find additional resources, and do your own analysis. That's what it's all about. That's the fun of genealogy. Well, as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, this train is moving quickly, this artificial intelligence train. And now I'm recording this portion here on July 14th of 2023. Just yesterday, Google announced that Bard has 4 big upgrades. And so I want to bring those to your attention. Something might sound of interest. I'm not endorsing them, but I think it's important just to be aware of how quickly this is evolving and what kinds of tools they're integrating. So the first thing is that you can pin and rename conversations. So they're giving us some tools where after you've had an interaction with Bard, and they call that a conversation, again, implying that you're actually talking to somebody, you have this conversation and you can pin it, you can rename it. Basically, you're starting to get editing features in which you can use the information that's coming out of it and be able to keep track of it and refer back to it. They also integrated something called export code to places, which just allows you to be able to export what they call Python code to other types of tools that you can work with. Probably not something that most of you listening would be interested in, but if you happen to be in the coding world or working in other areas of industry, that might be something that you've heard of. Here's the next one I think that is more applicable to kind of most of your everyday users, which would be sharing responses with friends. They are now giving you shareable links so that you can share ideas and creations that you do using Bard with other people. As I mentioned before at the top of the show, Bard is right now more of kind of a creation tool. You give it some ideas and it writes up a story, or it writes a poem, or it creates a picture. But it is also, as Google has said when it launched it, it's about search as well. And I think more and more we're going to see search and Bard kind of meld, if you will. So when you find stuff, and at this point when you create stuff, you might want to be able to share it with other people. And so they do have a shareable link. The other thing I think, which is probably the most interesting and the one that touches on what we do the most, is images in prompts. So we've seen how they've integrated images into the google.com search field, right? And in fact, images has now kind of morphed into lens. You've probably seen the little lens icon in your search box over at google.com. Lens is really images on AI steroids. It's including artificial intelligence and the ability to match images. Well, they're building that right into Bard. Not a surprise. I'm a little surprised it came so quickly, but it's here. They first announced this at their big conference when they announced Bard as being a potential feature down the road. Brings that image recognition together with artificial intelligence. Again, as I predicted, it's the melding, and not even predicted. They said they were going to do this, integrating search into it. So if you want information about an image, let's say you've got a postcard that was in a family history album, or you're wondering where a location is, you can upload that to Bard and ask it a question about that picture. Now, I've tested this a couple times, and right now, when I upload a photograph of an ancestor and I ask information about it, it'll say, hey, we don't do people yet. So clearly that's coming. We've known that's a good possibility because they've got the technology to do it. Right now, it's very good with pictures of objects. And so I uploaded a picture of skating rink tickets that my grandmother had in a scrapbook from the 1930s. And it was able to transcribe what was on the ticket. It was able to tell me that what time frame it thought that it was from when it was created, what it would have been made out of. It talked a little bit about the history of skating rinks. I mean, again, in order to talk about the history of skating rinks, it's got to be pulling information, and that gives us the sense that it can find answers, which, of course, as we've talked about, we have to be very careful about. So it could be an image of an object. It could be an image of a place. Those kinds of things it seems to be responding to pretty readily right now. Or if somebody, and I think a journalist or somebody writing a book might be thinking of this, you upload the picture and Bard can suggest a caption for the image. So a lot of it is it is the writing side of things right now, but it is analyzing that photo. And as you know, Google Photos is already really strongly using artificial intelligence in recognizing not just objects, not just places, but people. So we know that capability is there. It's coming. They have now integrated the ability to upload an image to incorporate into your conversations with Bard. You could take a look at that, see what you think. I found a couple of the images I uploaded, it was just making stuff up. It didn't know what it was looking at. Other things, it had half of it right and the other half completely off. A lot of the transcription wasn't very good. So again, I really think more than us testing what it's capable of doing, here's a thought. I think that these chatbots are actually testing how we will respond to them. They can track for every single user of these AI tools whether the person accepted it, whether they challenged it, whether they edited the information. That's why the editing feature is so important. They want to know how human beings respond to the kind of conversations that they're given. Even to when we talked about the emotional side of some of the language, how do you respond as a user to that? Because if you understand, right, the response of your subject, you can then perhaps change what you do in order to elicit different responses. So ponder that, if you will. I think we would be remiss to not even mention it, because I think it's important to understand what's going on in the world around you. But for the question of this episode, which is, do we use this for genealogy? What I've said in this episode, I think, stands for now, and we will keep our eye on it into the future. So stay tuned. We will tackle this topic again in a couple of different ways and see where it leads us. In the meantime, have a wonderful time finding your family history. I'm so glad you stopped by here. We're here to help you. So sign up for the free newsletter if you'd like to stay in touch. And of course, subscribe to the Genealogy Gems YouTube channel. Thanks so much for listening, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.